So, good day everyone. My name is Ihab S. Lasad, one of the reporter of Group 1. And today, we will discuss and explain the week 11 with the title of Universalizability. But before we start, let's hard read first and know the learning outcome of week 11. So, number 1, student will be able to evaluate universalizability test and understand Kant's moral philosophy.
So, good day everyone. So, I am Angeles Selgas from the Group 1. So, for today, we will talk about week 11, universalizability. So, let's move on. So, to figure out how the faculty of reason can be used of an autonomous action, we need to learn a method or a specific procedure that will demonstrate autonomy of the will. But first, we need to make distinction about kinds of moral theories, namely substantive and formal moral theories. So, may dalawang distinction tayo about moral theories, no? So, itong substantive and formal moral theory. So, ano ba to si substantive moral theory? So, substantive moral theory immediately promulgates the specific actions. So, immediately promulgates, so may command na. So, actions that compromise the theory. It identifies the particular duties in straightforward manner that the adherents or followers of the theory must follow. The specific laws are articulated mostly in the form of straightforward moral command. Example. So, example nito yung 10 Commandments. So, ano ba yung nasa 10 Commandments? For example, you shall not kill. So, ito yung substantive moral theory. So, may set na ng command. So, specific na yung command na binibigay niya. So, while si formal moral theory does not supply the rules or commands straight away. So, unlike substantive moral theory, so example lang substantive moral theory, yung you shall not kill doon sa 10 Commandments. So, ito si formal theory naman, hindi niya binibigay agad yung commands, hindi niya agad yung binibigay, hindi yung set ng mga gawain na para masabi mo na sinusunod mo yung formal moral theory. So, it does not tell you what you may or may not do. Instead, it will give us a set of instruction on how to make a list of duties or moral commands. So ito lang si formal moral theory, may instructions lang siya. So, for example, nung elementary tayo, nung bata pa, so doon, for example, masabi natin noon laging may set of commands. So, for example, ganyan si substantive moral theory. May set na ng commands, specific command. So, while na tumatanda tayo, so may instructions na, so may sa loob natin, so alam na natin yung kung ano yung gagawin. So, paano mag-isip at kung paano kumilos. So, ganyan din si formal moral theory. Moral theory, kailangan natin gamitin ang ating utak para maka-accumulate kung ano yung duties at moral commands natin. So, Kant endorses the formal moral theory. The Grundgesetze Metaphysik der Sitten, 1785, embodies a formal moral theory and what he calls the categorical imperative, which provides a procedural way of identifying the rightness or wrongness of an action. So, ito ngayon si Kant, so may binigay siya, siya nag-endorse ng formal moral theory. So, nag-provide siya ng procedural way of identifying the rightness or wrongness. So, kung ang isang bagay ba, isang actions ba ay morally right o morally wrong ba, kung ang rightness or wrongness ng isang bagay. So, may binigay siya ng procedure. So, one of it is the Kant articulates the categorical imperative this way. So, isa sa mga binigay niya na instructions or guides niya. Ito sabi ni Kant, act only according to such a maxim by which you can at once will that hit become a universal law. So, ito ngayon sinabi ni Kant. So, isa ito sa mga guides or sa mga instructions ni Kant. No? Act only according to such a maxim. So, ano ba ito si maxim? So, ito si maxim, ito yung combination ng actions at ng reason, kung ano yung rason behind that action. So, by which you can at once will that hit become a universal law. So, universal law, kung, for example, kung yung isang bagay na ginawa mo, for example, ay ikaw ay magsisinungaling. For now, magsisinungaling ka ngayon kasi kailangan mo magsinungaling. So, kung gagamitin natin yan sa iba, kung gagamitin rin yan ng iba, so apply yan as a universal law, magsisinungaling din sila. So, may contradiction. So, yan yung sinasabi ni Kant. Act only according to such a maxim by which you can at once will let it become a universal law. So, dapat maging acceptable ito universally. So, hindi lang dapat sa'yo, kundi sa lahat din na walang contradiction na mangyayari kung ito ay gagawin rin ng iba. So, that's all for this part and thank you for listening.
So good day. My name is Ihab S. Lasad. So the four the four key elements in the formulation of categorical imperative such as action, maxim, will, and universal law. So mauna ang the four elements of the formulation of categorical imperative according kay Kant. So Kant stated that we must formulate an action as a maxim, which is defined as a subjective principle of action. In this context, a maxim consists of a rule that we live by in our day-to-day lives, but it does not have the status of a law or moral command that bind us to act in a certain way. Rather, maxims dictate the pattern of our behavior. So Kant defined the subjective principle of action. So what is this subjective principle of action? So Kant say is a subjective principle of action by the means a rule of action a man follow as a part of his own policy of living, whatever rule of living other people may have. So Kant pointed out that we should act according to a maxim by which we can act at once will that it become a universal law. But what does it mean to will a maxim that can become a universal law? It means that the maxim must be a universalizable. In this formulation, Kant is telling us to conceive of the maxim as if it obligated everyone to comply. This mental act of imagining a universalized maxim leads us to imagine a maxim as a law that everyone ought to follow. The universality principle, one of the Kant categorical imperative, states that one should act only in accordance with that maxim, by which you may at the same time wish that it become a universal law. In other words, if you do something, then everyone else should be able to do if it too. And according to Kant, categorical imperative rationally necessary and unconditional rule that we must abide by regardless of any natural urge. We may have the contrary according to Kant. According to Kant, these principles justify all specific moral criteria, which mean that all immoral acts are irrational since they violated the categorical imperative. So, in groundwork towards a metaphysic of moral, Kant take up the issue of making a false promises. Consider a man who needs money but has no immediate access to obtain it, except borrowing from a friend. This man knows that he cannot pay it back, yet he still borrow the money. This is the specific act under the general category of act called a false promising. So si Kant na siya gitawag na a false promises or promising, which is a man who need a money but has no immediate access to obtain it except lang kung mag-borrow siya sa iyang mga friends or mga relatives ba niya or parents ba. So kato na tao kabalog yapon siya na kung manguram siya di gyapon siya ka pay back, di niya mabayaran or but he still borrow it. Even di siya maka-payback. So, mauna ang ginaingon ni Andre sa groundwork towards a metaphysics of moral. So, what doesn't it mean?
Good day, ma'am. I am John Eric Agripalo. My topic is all about what does it mean to universalize the maxim of borrowing money without intending to return it. Sa aking pagkaintindi sa universalized maxim po, ma'am, ay ito po yung mga pangako na hindi tinutupad. Katulad ng magbabarkada. For example, ma'am, kanang na sila ay gipalit. Kanang moingon sila, "Bay, please ako, kay bayaran lang tikaw niya." Ingana nga pangako, ma'am, kay lisod na kay natuuhan. Kay asa barkada, mao na mo ang ginagamit na kuan para malibre sa muang mga amigo. So, next, let us assess the hypothetical world of borrowing money without the intention to return it. If this is the case, then all lenders will know that they will not be paid and they will refuse to lend money. The institution of money borrowing would lose its meaning of everyone borrow money without intending to pay it back. As a universalized maxim, it would self-destruct because it becomes impossible. So, para sa tuwa, ma'am, kabalo naman ta sa tao na mangutang siya tapos dili siya kabalo mo bayad. So, next time, dili na nato siya pautangon. Kay kita ra magyapon ang maapektuhan sa iyang binuhatan. So, kabalo naman ta sa iyang mga history. So, dili na lang jud ta magpahiram si Hagkwarta. So, that's all, ma'am. Thank you and God bless.
Good day. I am Nick Jan Borlat. I will discuss on how Kant explain or distinguish between being consistent with itself and contradict itself. According to Kant, that an individual who has principle in life, or he or she in need, could promise to you whatever they pleases, but the intention are not to keep it. So, Kant claims that all persons are consistent with itself, but they contradict itself. So, the next reporter will continue the discussion.
The result of all this is reveal the rational permissibility of actions. They cannot be rejected as universalizable maxims. So we've shown that borrowing money with no intentions of repaying is wrong.
Kant's categorical imperative is formal, not substantive moral philosophy. We have shown how an action is permissible or not. Instead of given list of substantive moral commands, we now have a sort of tool like a measuring instrument that tell us whether an action is morally permissible or not. When we say categorical imperatives, it is a commands or moral laws all person must follow regardless of their desires or extenuating circumstances. Hence, we have the capacity to make our own list of moral commands. Instead of receiving them from others, we use our rational faculty to produce our own list of moral duties. It means it is a rule that tells us what rules to follow. It basically says that the only good rules are rules that can be thought of as good in every case. In other words, you should only follow a rule if it's logically possible for all people to follow that rule. It is our duty to act in such a manner that we would want everyone else to act in a similar manner in similar circumstances towards all other peoples. Kant expressed this as the categorical imperative.
So, good day. My name is Ihab Lasad. So, returning to Reggie in the suitcase that was left in his cab, he can now test on his own moral permissibility of the formulated maxim. When a suitcase that does not belong to me is left in my can, I shall take its content and shall for my own benefit. Does the universalized maxim encounter a self-contradiction or that it remain self-consistent? So si Reggie is sa week 10 is Reggie is he is a cab driver and which is na siya passenger na foreigners. So katong passenger na inabilin na suitcase, it is kanidad of 600,000. Yeah, 600,000. Then napay mga laptop or something na mamahalin. Then Reggie is remain a self-consistent because pwede niya dili uli ang katong mga suitcase, katong laptop, katong kwarta yang nakuha sa yang car. Then pero yang gibuhat is yang giuli. It is according to him is it was his duty to return the thing that is not his belonging. So yang gi-follow ang iyahang rational will. So the universalized maxim of Reggie become a contradictory. For the meaning of ownership is contradicted. How is that everyone is obligated to take suitcase and share a content despite the fact that they do not have the rights to possess, use, and dispose of the suitcase? So, kung ikaw, kung i-follow nimo ang imuhang base impulse or emotion, so mo gidong ibaligya or kuhahon nimo for your own benefits. Kita ko naman to siya kwarta. Pero kung i-follow nimo ang nimo rational will or which is imong principle, which is di gyud nimo to siya di nimo siya ibaligya, iuli nimo siya. Imo mag-follow imong rational will. So now imagine applying this procedure to other scenario in which a person encounter a moral problem such as lying, cheating in exam, murder, and adultery, among others. When the maxim is a specific action under those moral issue, the universal that encounter self-contradiction. So we all know that lying and cheating in exam, murder, and adultery is not good. But in this case, is a person is encountered a moral problem. So kani kung mo ning gibuhat, mabuhat gyapon sa uban. May universalize gyapon without encountering self contradiction. So kung na may uban tao na nagid siya intention or attempt na buhaton ang isa ka butang, sa kabalo siya na mali. Pero wala siya contradiction sa iyang sarili. So o siya nagduwa-duwa or follow gid niya iyang murag impulse o yang impulse follow a base impulse or emotion.
Good day, ma'am. I am here to discuss my topic. It's all about categorical imperative. All people are required to abide by directives or moral laws, regardless of their preferences or special situations. So it means categorical imperative is a human nature to distinguish what's right or wrong, but people are required to do right things or morally right acts, and this moral principle is applied to everyone. Next is categorical imperative. So they are autonomous, self-legislating well, and they are free, independent, and sovereign. Autonomous, in other words, it's autonomous or self-legislating well. Self-legislating well, people are free to distinguish what's right or wrong. To distinguish, so there are two permissible moral acts and next impermissible moral acts. Impermissible moral acts is what we call right thing to do or okay to do and is socially accepted. So impermissible moral acts is what we call the wrong things to do and is not socially accepted. These are things we are not allowed to do, like killing, robbing, and lying. So that's all about categorical imperative, and that's all. Thank you.
Hello, good day. I will tackle about the summary of week 11. What can deontology contributes to our life, specifically to our moral reflection? The answer lies in one concept: enlightenment morality. This kind of morality is opposed to paternalism, which evokes the metaphor of father and disinterest of the children as long as the children are dependent and may not know yet what is best for them. The children are expected to comply and obey because they are still not unfit to make good decisions on their own. So yeah, ang children daw is wala pa sila sariling huna-una or di pa sila maka make their own decisions because they are children. So dependent sila sa ilang father, no? So dapat is i-follow nila ang ilang father, no? About sa unsay buhaton, no? So because wala pa sila sariling huna-una or sariling decision. So dependent sila sa ilang father, no? Unsa man to iyon silang father is ilang i-obey or i-follow, or they are expected to to comply and obey. So but what happens when the children grow and become mature adults? When they move on to develop their minds and live their own lives. Certainly, paternalism has to give way to a more mature and rational will. When the children are no longer children, when they mature and can begin to navigate the complex world. So, katong mga child is mag-mature na. So naa na sila sariling hunaon na para mag decide or mag about sa ilahang buhaton, no? Kabalo na sila sa right and wrong, no, because they are mature na. Na sila sa saktong edad. So kabalo na sila mo make their own decisions. So pwede na sila mo navigate sa complex world. This is therefore the place of deontology and spirit of enlightenment morality. Deontology is based on light of one's own reason when maturity and rational capacity take hold of a person's decisions making. With deontology, particularly the method of universalizability, we can validate and adapt those rules and laws that are right and reject those that are irrational, thus impermissible because they are contradictory. This is the practical value of deontology in our moral reflection. We are encouraged to make courage to think on our own, to use our rational will against external authorities as well as internal base impulses that tend to
undermine or autonomy and self-determination. And so